safe with me? All right, guys. So welcome to the Momentum Call number 3 of the Greatest Year of Your Life 2019 Momentum Series. And the title of this call is The Dynamics of Self-Sabotage. So remember, in call number 1, we talked about the importance of really focusing on the wins, things that are going well. On call number 2, we looked at some of the really foundational elements of goal setting and goal achieving. And now we got to look at what are the things that happen within us that create a sense of self-sabotage. And there's a lot of things that it could be, but these I feel are the 2 primary things that we experience, the 2-step forward, 2-step back sort of syndrome, if you will. So think about it. Have you ever had the experience of setting a goal, going after it, making some progress, and then all of a sudden you found yourself sabotaging your progress or your success in some way? So have you ever had that experience?
Yes.
Yes.
So I think we all have. And I think partially it's because we're uninformed of this brilliant 3-pound piece of equipment between our ears. We're really uninformed. And I love brain science because if we are to achieve our goals and we are to really have the greatest year of our life and live our best life and be our best self, I think it's important to understand as best we can this complex piece of machinery that we have here in our nervous system because it runs the show. And so something that I learned over the last few years was a real big game changer for me. So give me a second here. We self-sabotage, like if I could just put one phrase around it, it's inner conflict. It's inner conflict, meaning like a part of us is going this way, but another part of us is going this way. And so they create this inner tug of war. We go forward 2 steps, we go backwards 2 steps, and we get frustrated. And then we say, fuck it, I'm not going after my goals anymore because I don't achieve them. And then we create that belief. And so we just stop ourselves before we even get the game started. So inner conflict is what happens within us. But let's explore a couple of ways that inner conflict shows up. So the 2 common dynamics that produce self-sabotage in terms of what we're going to cover today, the first one is understanding that we have a brain that is built on 3 priorities. Now, if you're part of the Breakthrough Academy, Transformation Academy, or you've been to Greatest Year of Your Life in the past couple of years, we've been talking about this, and this is an important foundational piece of our work because when we this piece of machinery, our brain, has been with us for thousands and thousands of years. It's evolved over the course of that time. But think about the days when we were cavemen and cave women. Like, think about how important was safety and survival during that time, when we didn't have like cities, we didn't have like fortresses built where, saber-tooth tigers couldn't get in. We lived in caves and shit. We lived in huts and teepees, and pretty much anything that was, bigger than a lion could just force its way in and just eat us. And so we developed a part of our brain very early on in our species, in the lives of our species. We developed a part of our brain that was built around safety and survival. And that's priority number 1 on the first page of our worksheet: safety and survival. We had to constantly scan our environment to make sure that there wasn't any danger involved. Fast forward thousands and thousands of years later, we still have this part of our brain intact, and it's still active and it's still operating. But we don't have the same kinds of dangers as we once had back in the day, because we've evolved as a species. We've built these communities, we've built these buildings, we build houses that can withstand so much, but we still have that fear response that goes off. So the first priority of your brain is safety and survival. Your brain is constantly, especially, like, write this one down, especially anytime that you're about to do something new or make a change, that part of your brain fires off sort of a red flag. And it wants to know, is there imminent danger near, or is it safe to progress forward? But most people, I'll tell you right now, most people don't stop to take that step and observe, okay, I'm feeling a little cortisol rush, I'm feeling a little anxiety. is there any real danger here? Is my life in danger here? Or is this just my threat detection system letting me know that, hey, just pay attention. Do you see anything dangerous? You're about to step on stage and give a presentation. Is there any saber-toothed tigers in the audience? So whatever activates that fear or anxiety, that's just simply this part of your brain trying to keep you safe. So safety and survival is the number one priority. And anytime that you are about to make some change in your life, this part of your brain is going to activate. And then what this part of your brain does is that it will produce thoughts that say, do you, like, for example, coming to the greatest year of your life, for those of you who are registered, you're watching this if you're registered probably, you made a decision. And oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Mithka, I'm gonna mute you. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. And so you made a choice to come to the greatest year of your life. And now here's the thing. The minute you make that choice, your unconscious mind knows what's going to happen in your future. Your unconscious mind knows what's going to happen in your future. So what will happen is your brain, that amygdala or that fear centers of your brain, will release a little bit of cortisol. And that cortisol is sort of that anxious feeling or that fearful feeling or that sort of like tension feeling. And all it's trying to do is warn you of potential change, because change, according to that old part of our brain, meant a threat. Anything unknown or unfamiliar or change or different back in the day meant that there was a threat. And so your brain is just simply surveying the environment to see if there's any real threat involved. And then your brain will produce thoughts like, man, do I really need to go to this event? 3 days, who's this George guy? Greatest year of your life, bullshit. And so our brain will come up with some thoughts. And not only that, but at an even stronger level, sometimes, like if the pattern of avoidance of change is so strong that it'll produce a sickness or an illness in our bodies where maybe, gosh, I don't feel so good. Maybe I shouldn't go to that event. I should stay home and rest. Some people, and I'll tell you, of the 200 people we're going to have registered this year, probably about 175 people will end up showing up. And those 25 people had some sort of reason. I'm not calling it bad or wrong, or an excuse of some sort of why they shouldn't come to the event. And it's not bad or good. It's just what the brain does. And if somebody isn't skilled at recognizing what their brain is doing and observing it, and then breathing through it, and then continuing to move forward, then they'll just let themselves self-sabotage. So 175 people will show up, but of everybody who ends up registering ends up having some sort of thought, at the very least, some thought of, should I really go to this event? This is 3 days of my life. It's going to be January, less and cold in Denver. I just want to sit home, watch Netflix, and eat some soup, which is the reason why you need to be at this event. If you're at home binging on Netflix, eating soup all day. All right. So priority number one is safety and survival. Right, so you sign up for greatest year of your life, and then your brain, your unconscious mind senses change, and then it starts to send up thoughts, right? Oh, do I really need to go to this event, right? Is this really even going to be worth my time, or whatever it might be? And some people will even, like, their car will break down. They'll manifest their car breaking down, or some sort of like home emergency that they have to take care of. It's interesting to see some of the stories. So we love this. I absolutely love this, because I know the people who show up on January 11th are the absolute right people who are supposed to be there, because there's just a natural filtering process that keeps people who aren't ready for the work that we do at home and brings people who are ready for the work right into those seats. So number one is priority. Number one priority is safety, survival. Number two is energy conservation. Energy conservation. So your brain loves to conserve energy, very much for a similar reason that safety and survival is a high priority. Because anytime you're exerting a lot of energy, and by the way, anytime you're going after a goal or something that's important to you, or you're taking action to develop a new habit or a new skill, your brain is exerting a lot of energy. But because one of the priorities of your brain is to conserve energy, again, it will do its best to say, okay, all right, we need to tailor it back. What if you run into a woolly mammoth or whatever, back in the day? What if we run into a saber-toothed tiger or a lion? You need energy to fight or flight. So the brain is constantly trying to keep you in a comfort zone so that you can stay alive. Does that make sense? So energy conservation is number 2. Anytime you're doing things outside of your comfort zone, it requires a lot of energy. And this is why so many people just go right back to their comfort zones, because they can do it unconsciously. It's familiar, and they don't have to think about it. It's simple and it's easy. But when you're in that comfort zone for too long, and we'll talk about this, something else yearns in you for growth. It's this crazy duality. We need both certainty. And if you ever study Anthony Robbins' human needs psychology, he talks about the 6 human needs. And the first 2 needs are certainty, that we need a certain level of certainty and familiarity in our life just to stay sane, but not to the degree of the movie Groundhog's Day. Have you guys seen that movie Groundhog's Day, where Bill Murray's character relives Groundhog's Day over and over and over again, and after a while he's, just starts trying to kill himself because he's just so bored of the day? It's kind of like that. We would get so bored if every day was the exact same. I think initially it would be kind of cool. We can go try some new stuff or whatever. But after a while, I think we get bored. We get really bored. And so Tony talks about how our second human need, is for a need for uncertainty, because that stimulates growth. So keep that in mind as you're coming to the greatest year of your life, and as you're experiencing these things with us, as you're stepping out of your comfort zone. That uncomfortableness is actually you growing. Anytime if I'm not uncomfortable, I know that something needs to change for me. If I'm comfortable for too long, I know personally that I need to do something different. I need to change, because growth is one of my highest values. So that's number 2, energy conservation, staying in your comfort zone. Our brain is always trying to keep us safe and keep us in our comfort zone so that we have the energy to survive and stay alive. And then number 3 is internal and external congruence. Internal, external congruence for number 3. Internal, external congruence. And all this means is, over the course of your life, you've built belief systems, you've built value systems, you have this mental construct in place about, in NLP, we call it your model of the world. You sort of have your model of the world in your head. And one thing that you'll learn in our NLP trainings is that the map is not the territory, meaning your internal map or your internal model of the world isn't a 1-to-1 ratio to the external environment. Does that make sense? So you have your internal map of the world in your mind and your psyche of what you believe the world is, and then there's the actual world that we live in. So it's not a 1-to-1. And one thing that your brain looks for, one of the priorities, is internal external congruence. So the beliefs that systems that you've already built, your brain literally is sending data and information to your eyes for you to seek the things that you already believe. So let that settle in for a second. The belief systems, the value systems, sort of your internal model of the world, your brain unconsciously is going to seek in the external environment what you already believe, because that means, okay, we've got it right, if you will. And if we have it right, that means we're safe. And if we're safe, we get to survive. So internal, external congruence. So anytime, for example, anytime that you go to create internal change, and we'll talk about this at a lot more in depth at the event, but anytime you're going to change something internally, your beliefs literally have a built-in error detection system. Your beliefs literally have a built-in error detection system. It's going to look for incongruence. Your beliefs are going to look for incongruence so that it can defend it and basically defend itself so that the belief can stay intact. And this is why I think our event is so special, because we really create intention, we pray, and we create a space that allows you to feel safe being vulnerable, where your barriers come down. And that's why this event is so transformative for people, is because their defenses come down. And when your defenses are down, we can now begin to deconstruct old belief systems, the old model of the world, and start to rebuild new belief systems and develop a new model of the world based on your goals and your mission and your vision. Because your current model of the world, when you think about it, has been built based on your past experiences. It's been built based on modeling your parents. It's been built based on modeling society and watching society. But you have to ask yourself, is my current model of the world in alignment with my mission and my vision and my goals? Or is it in alignment with an older reality? And that's the one thing I love about our 3-day event. It's such a powerful experience of lowering your barriers and breaking down old models that you've built over the years so that we can construct and build new ones. So priority number 1 is energy conservation. Priority number 2, or I'm sorry, that's number 2. Priority number 1 is safety survival. Priority number 2 is energy conservation. Priority number 3 is internal and external congruence. All right. So there at the bottom of the first page, a couple years ago, I asked John Assaraf, I saw him at an event, and, anytime I'm around masters like that, like, I become a student. I'm a straight up student, like giddy, I got my notepad out, shit, I'm writing, I'm like, John, like a reporter, I'm like, John, tell me, what do people need to know in a soundbite? What do people need to know about achieving their goals? And like he said it immediately, he said, George, we must learn to activate the motivational centers of your brain. So at the bottom of page 1, if you want to fill that in, we must learn to activate the motivational centers of our brain often as we can. And the greatest year of your life, like most of that 3 days is about the activation of the motivational centers of your brain. That's one of the primary targets of that event, is to get you in motion forward, get the motivation active in your brain so that you create momentum. And then he said, we must also learn to manage the fear centers of the brain. We also must manage the fear centers of the brain. So fill in those blanks and take a minute with that. We must activate the motivational centers of our brain. So think about it in 2018. I know for those of you who are in our programs, the answer to this question may be a little bit different. But if you're new to Greatest Year of Your Life in our community and the work that we do, in 2019, how often did you intentionally, consciously, and deliberately activate the motivational centers of your brain by thinking about your goals, by writing your goals, by looking at your vision board, by visualizing? How often did you spend time doing that? You don't have to count or anything, just letting you think. And it probably wasn't often. Now think about what would be different if you consistently gave yourself the space and the permission to think about your goals, to feel about your goals, to act upon the inspiration that comes from that. What would be different? What's going to be different about 2019 when you create the space and the habit of activating the motivational centers of your brain? Because I promise you, if the fear centers of your brain are active, you're not going anywhere. I promise you that. You ain't going anywhere if the fear centers of your brain are active. And this is what most people practice. They practice activating the fear centers of their brain. Because like safety and comfort is just something you don't have to think about. But when it comes to growth and growing a business or booking a paid speaking engagement like Victoria did, or whatever it might be, we have to tap into the motivational centers of our brain. And so you're going to learn a lot of tools and techniques at the Greatest Year of Your Life on how to keep the motivational centers of your brain active, and also how to manage the fear centers of your brain. So think about what you just learned in the last 20 minutes. You basically learned that your brain simply naturally is going to try to keep you safe. It's going to try to conserve your energy, and it's going to look for what it already believes to be true. All in attempts to keep you alive. I mean, kudos to the brain. Thank you, brain. Yeah, I like being alive. Let's keep those in place. But let me become more aware of when I'm letting that shot of cortisol, that fear shot, take me into a downward spiral to create a story that isn't even true. And this is what the stories that we create come from this fear. So activating the motivational centers of your brain and learning to manage the fear centers of your brain. And so this is where, kind of in this first dynamic that we're talking about, this is where we self-sabotage. Because when you think about a goal, like, so everybody do this with me if you can. So think about what's one goal that like you're really excited to accomplish in 2019. What's one goal that you really just like, oh man, I can't wait to go after this one. Like for me, it's learning how to play the piano. I got some sort of intuitive hits recently that 2019 is going to be a big year for creativity for me. And learning to play the piano is going to be one of those things. And so when I think about it, I get really excited. And at the same time, I can feel my brain saying, well, wait a minute, is that safe? You're going to be exerting a lot of energy learning all that stuff. You're going to be able to grow your business. You know, if you have all that energy going into playing the piano, you're going to, and then, you know, the third priority, well, George, you don't know how to play the piano now. How are you going to do that? Like I can feel my brain asking me these limiting questions to try to keep me alive. And I say, thank you, brain, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to learn to fiddle these fingers on that piano real good. Like, all right. So it's a practice and stepping back and recognizing that your brain's just trying to keep you safe. But what most people tend to do if they're not versed in this stuff that we're talking about, most people they feel the fear, and then all of a sudden it triggers a fearful thought. And then it triggers a fearful feeling, and then it triggers a fearful thought, and then it triggers a fearful feeling, which eventually triggers a fearful action, and usually, which is staying in your comfort zone. Like think about the and I, you know, this is not coming from me. I've learned this just from research, you know, and learning from people who are just crushing it. And think about how just this information alone can support you in having the greatest year of your life in 2019. So pay attention to when your brain is just simply trying to keep you safe or conserve your energy. And also, sorry, this AC keeps coming on over here, even though I turned that shit off. Pay attention to your brain more, what it's doing. Pay attention to how you feel more, and recognize if you have any fear-based stories, that it's simply coming out of your brain trying to keep you safe. You know, it's one thing to like say no to real danger, you know, but it's another thing to say no to an irrational danger that's never going to happen. And this is where most people live. They create the irrational story in their mind of if they do this thing, if they start a business, if they, whatever it is that next big step is, if they get married, if they have a kid or whatever it is, they create that vision. And then almost instantaneously, the brain is going to fire off cortisol, and it's going to say, wait a minute, wait, is it safe? And so just know that's what's going to happen. When you activate the motivational centers of your brain, the fear centers of your brain will play hand in hand. But what you can get really good at is being an observer to your brain in that process. And then breathe through it, because breath is one of the most powerful ways to release anxiety or fear. Breathe through it and continue making progress forward. All right. Hey, there's breakthrough baby number 2 right there, Claudia. Oh, she's out. Okay. Hi, Claudia. How are you, darling?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, awesome. We were just talking about you and Valentina, breakthrough baby number 2.
Yeah, she's breakthrough baby.
Yeah, in our first year, we had Ashley Pittman and Houston Pittman. They had they conceived at our Firewalk retreat, which is really awesome. Claudia, what do you know the date that you guys conceived?
It was in February. I think, yeah, around February 14, indeed.
Gotcha. Cool.
Around Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, guys. You guys are going to see Claudia at the event. She is our assistant lead manager for the event. And so you're going to be interacting with her, engaging with her. She's been attending and working with me in my events since 2013 maybe, or 2014?
Yeah, 2013, I think.
Yeah, 5
A
years.
bit longer.
Going
Yeah,
going on 6 years, girl.
we have had a blast.
Yeah, yeah, and more to come. More to come, indeed.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So on the second page, guys, the second dynamic, and this one is such an eye opener too. And you know, one of my targets this year for Grace Year of Your Life 2019 was to, even before you stepped in the door on day one on January 11th, that you got your money's worth, because it's all cherries on top from there. It's all bonus from there. So this second piece is also money. All right. So the second dynamic that we'll discuss in this call is that when we have beliefs and values in conflict, it's that inner conflict that we're talking about. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you already know what this question is, but I'd love to hear your response, yes or no. So if I said, hey, we're going skydiving, are you coming with me? Whoever joined, we're going skydiving, are you coming with me? I gotta mute somebody. Okay, so if I said, hey guys, we're going skydiving, who would come with me? Just, I'm curious, is there anybody here that would go skydiving with me when you think about the idea of skydiving?
Not now.
Any day of the week, George, I'm there.
Perfect. That's Mitch. I know that voice anywhere. I know that magic voice anywhere, my man. So Mitch said, was that Mitch? I hope I'm right.
Yeah, it was Mitch, and I would go right alongside him.
Cool. Okay. So we could have a three-way jump. I know they have tandem jumps. We'll have a three-way jump. And Claudia says, hell no. Okay. So are you ever curious, like, what are the dynamics of decision making? This, guys, I think is gold. Once I understood this is why I created the pillars of alignment, which you're going to learn on day one at the Greatest Year of Your Life. This is why I created the pillars of alignment, because what we're uncovering here are the driving forces of what drives our every decision and action. So Claudia, for example, when I said, hey, who's going skydiving with me? Claudia says, hell no. So the first thing, so underneath the skydiving picture, let's break down how our values and belief invisibly influence our thoughts, emotions, choices, and actions, and our results. So feel free to take the notes down there. But in that first sort of blank spot, if you will, the first thing that happens, if I ask you, do you want to go skydiving with me, is you have to have some thought about it. Either you have an image in your mind, or you hear your own internal voice go off and say, oh, hell no, we're not doing that, or whatever it is. Initially, that thought is triggered, right? That idea is triggered. And then right after that, in that second box right there, in that second line, we trigger emotions. And for Claudia, it was probably fear or anxiety or something very resistant. Claudia, what would you say the emotion would be for you?
I think it was more the uncertainty, but maybe it's because of the stage of my life I'm right now, because I have a skydive and I like it, but like now maybe I'm valuing security a little bit more because we just had a baby.
Perfect.
I think.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so right now, so she's been skydiving before, but right now in her life, she's a new mom, and you know, she just kind of outlined the process for us. So the emotion was kind of a sense of uncertainty, right? And then that emotion then produces, then activates which Claudia just mentioned, your values and your beliefs. So you have an image, right, of what skydiving looked like, and then all of a sudden you had this kind of internal emotion go on, and then that activates the current values and beliefs that we're operating from, and then boom, that last line there is your decision or your choice to not go skydiving. Okay, so that's sort of Claudia's line of thinking there. So now let's go to Mitch or Mythica. So when I asked you guys, do you want to go skydiving? You say yes. And you got an image in your mind, or you thought about it, and then you got a feeling. What was that feeling for you?
Woohoo!
Yeah, okay, good. And that feeling of woohoo activated a certain value system. So for Claudia, it was more like, okay, I value security and safety right now because I'm a new mom and I want to be here. But for Mythica, what would you say the value that was activated?
New experience. I love new experiences because it leads me to new thinking and new mental pathways, and I'm always trying to expand and grow, and that would push me in that direction.
Love it. Mythica, I just love you because, you've also been attending events since I think like 2013. Was that the first time that you came to one of my events?
Yep.
And it's just been so fun watching, and I'm not saying it's from attending my events. You just have it in you to go get it. But it's just been so fun watching you expand and grow and shift and just change lives. What would you say to somebody who is going to be attending Grace Year of Your Life for the first time this year?
That everything they want is on the other side of fear, and if they really want what they haven't had, that they should go have an experience that they haven't had.
Sums it up right there. That's the 3-day event right there, folks. Let's wrap it up and go home. That was it. So new experiences, and thank you, Mythica. So new experiences is what Mythica identified as the value that she had, which led to the choice of, yes, I'm doing this. Yeah. So guys, what we're sort of pulling the curtains back and showing you here is how you come to your decisions. How you come to your decisions. And every decision that you make unconsciously is coming from a value system or a belief system that you've had in place for a while. And if you're making choices and decisions from old value systems and old beliefs, you're producing old results. So in order for you to create new results in your life, it's time for an upgrade. It's time to upgrade your value system. And that's really what the pillars of alignment is. And it doesn't, I don't want to portray that this is an overnight thing, that it happens so fast. Like, yes, it's true. Some people have major breakthroughs and they have like the craziest, amazing year ever. And some people, it's a little bit of a longer process and everything in between. So I do not want to trigger instant gratification in you that this is going to happen fast. Sometimes it does, but for the most part, it's a process. It's change. And so however you personally and individually handle change is most likely going to be your process as you step into having the greatest year of your life. So just know that the old choices that you've been making are from old beliefs and old values, and that part of our work over the 3 days, and if you decide to jump into some of our other programs, part of our work is to redesign your internal landscape, your internal model of the world, so that you can make new choices, take new actions, and create new results. And that's why you're coming for the most part. So that's these are the two dynamics that creates most self-sabotage. And I want to share a story with you about how this plays, how sort of the value systems and the pillars of alignment come into play. So I remember it was the second year in my business, and I had just claimed bankruptcy, and I just felt like a total failure because I moved into my brother's his 2-bedroom apartment, like, very small 2-bedroom apartment. And at that time I had a desk, a laptop, and a printer and some clothes, and that was pretty much it. And so I lived out of his apartment, and I was literally Googling going to Mexico and teaching English as a second language and just escaping. I just felt like a total failure, and I just didn't feel like I was making the progress I wanted to. So I was just looking to escape. And as I was making all the plans and doing all the research and filling out my application, there was something inside of me that said, keep going. And then not long after that, I had this huge download about what we're talking about here, about how our value systems are in such a place of making our decisions and influencing our actions. And it got me thinking about, gosh, growing up, my parents, like, their number one value was comfort and security, by far, still is to this day. Number one value, comfort and security. And for 18 years, I lived with them. I lived in my mom for 9 months. So I've already got her DNA. I've got my parents' DNA. So I've already transferred their values to my DNA. But if you study epigenetics, what they're realizing is that 50% of sort of our inherited genes, well, 100% of our DNA comes from our parents, but the other half comes from our intentional effort to create change. Like Bruce Lipton is a great person to study if you want to study epigenetics. Really brilliant guy, biology of belief, phenomenal body of work. But anyway, comfort and security for my parents. So 18 years just being immersed in that, like going to college 2.5 hours away, was like the hardest thing I ever had to do. I didn't know it at the time, but it was because this value of comfort, right? It was my brain saying, wait, this is the unknown. Is it safe? Is it really safe? And then I started a business. And so I still have this old value, right? I'm 29 or 30 years old at the time. And I have this old value of comfort in place. And I'm not really even aware of it, and all of a sudden I have this revelation about, gosh, starting a business, like it forces you, if you're a business owner or if you're trying to grow a business, how much like it forces you to grow. I think entrepreneurship is the greatest vehicle for self-actualization on the planet, personally. And so you start a business, it forces you to grow, but comfort is totally opposed to growth. They're two totally different. So now I've got this internal conflict. Does this make sense? I've got this internal conflict. My business wants me to grow, and I want to grow, and I want to help more people, and I want to make more money, and I want to live a great life. But I've got this, it's comfort. Comfort is important. Come back here. Comfort is important. Come back here. Just chill on the couch. Have some chicken, bro. Eat some Ben & Jerry's ice cream. That's comfortable. You like this, right? So I've got this this inner tug of war going, this inner conflict going on. And once I had that revelation, it was the very next year. I didn't call it Pillars of Alignment the next year, but I called it the Personal Integrity Achievement System. I had a workshop on it and everything, but it was about how to organize your values in a way that aligns with your goals instead of operating from old values and beliefs. And so I remember I listened to that intuitive voice in my head, and I just said, okay, all right, I'll stay the course. I canceled all my stuff to Mexico. And I said, okay, I'm going to stay the course. And it was that year, that very next year, I created a list of values that were aligned with my goals. And I said, okay, I'm going to consciously live by these values. One of them was faith, meaning having trust that I was supported if I just continue moving forward. Faith and trust. And so I remember one day at the beginning of that year, 2011, maybe, I think is what it was. At the beginning of 2011, I ended up meeting a woman. Her name was Ingrid Elver. And Ingrid was a business coach, and she was giving a presentation on social media at some networking event. And I remember listening to her. I was like, oh, these are some cool strategies, social media strategies. This is great. And so afterwards, she was done, and everybody was networking, and I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to my friend Greg, and Greg and I are chatting. Ingrid comes over. She stands by us. I'm like, oh, hey, great presentation. I'm like, hey, Greg, this is Ingrid. She's a social media coach. And she gives me this really dirty look. Like, I'm not a social media coach. I'm like, I'm sorry. What do you do? She said, I help people become rock stars in their industry. No, celebrities. I help people become celebrities in their industry. And the minute she said that, it just totally triggered me. I was like, okay, we have to talk. And so we got on the phone a couple weeks later, and we're having a conversation about potentially, working with her, because I knew I needed a coach. I knew I needed a mentor to help lift me up from where I was. And so we're having a conversation. By the end of it, I just felt inspired to say, okay, I want to work with you. And I asked her, I said, well, how much is it going to cost to work with you? She said, are you sitting down? I said, yeah, why? She said, well, it's going to be $10,000. And my balls shriveled. I mean, literally, I felt my balls shrivel. But that was just a side effect of like the internal constriction of fear happening. Like my whole body constricted, but I just felt my balls go into my lungs. And the first thing that I said when that happened was, Ingrid, I can't afford that. And she no bullshit. That's what I loved about her. And all of the mentors that I've ever hired, they've been no bullshit people. And these are the people that I love the most. She said, George, I'm going to tell you straight up, this is your block. She said, you are used to looking at your bank account and making decisions based on that versus trusting. And she used the word trust. She didn't use the word faith, but she used the word trust. She said, versus trusting in yourself and trusting the universe that it has your back and that you are capable. And the minute she said that, I had a little well up, some tears start to come up. because she backed me against the value that I chose that was going to be important that year, which was faith and trust. And when she did that, I couldn't go anywhere else because I had committed to myself that I was going to live by those values. And so I briefly thought about it, and I looked at it on the phone. I didn't look at her. I kind of looked up and I said, okay, let's do this. And so we ended up working out a payment plan. I paid her $1,000 a month, which was a lot of money for me at the time. I only had $1,400 in my bank account at that time. So I paid her $1,000 a month for 12 months. And within 3 months, my business tripled. And it was quite a revelation to understand that how quickly we can grow when we have the right people in our corners. So I share that with you because when you go into 2019, you're going to have an opportunity to create what's called your pillars of alignment. And your pillars of alignment is basically going to be what we just talked about, your new value systems that your new value system that you want to wire in, that's in alignment with your vision and your mission and your goals. And this is what we call creating unwavering internal alignment. I think it's session 6 of day 1. And that's the magic of this work, guys, is how do we create an internal alignment that aligns us with our mission, our vision, and our goals? And how do we take aligned action? It's all about creating alignment. It's all about creating alignment. Like, I'm a huge believer in massive action, but I'm not a huge believer in massive action out of alignment, because that's like walking uphill in mud or raking water uphill. If you've ever tried raking water uphill, it's very difficult. And I've done that. I've been so out of whack internally. I've worked my ass off 18-hour days, but totally out of alignment internally and didn't produce shit. But the minute I got aligned and then I took massive action, the results from my action just seemed to compound on itself. So I'm super passionate about this because I self-sabotaged pretty much most of my life. Like, everything that was ever important to me, I pretty much self-sabotaged until I understood these dynamics. So anyway, guys, that's going to be the end of call number 2. I hope that you've got some value and some insight out of this call. I am so fucking pumped to spend these 3 days with you. I can't even tell you. Like, I've been preparing for the last 6 months, and like, this is my Super Bowl. This is my Super Bowl because I get to see people go from, like, I kind of closed and defense to being like the child and being in that space of wonder and excitement and enthusiasm and motivation for the year. Like, to watch that from the front row is just one of the biggest blessings that I have. So I'm very excited to share that experience with you guys. And I don't have words to really communicate that, but I hope you know that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there. So just reading some of the chat here. All right. Okay, guys, cool. So any questions before we wrap up? I'll stay on the line a couple more minutes. If anybody has any questions, now is the time to do it. And if not, then we're going to wrap up. Okay. All right. All right, guys. Well, it's December. It's the last month of the year, as you know, and an opportunity to look at, last month I asked you, look at your November patterns, look at your December patterns too. Maybe it's a time for you to rest up because 2019 is going to be fucking off the chains. So love the one you got, or you might get shot. I think that's a sublime lyric, isn't it? That took me back to college. Anyway, all jokes aside, I hope you all have an amazing holiday, however you celebrate it individually, and that you receive a lot of fucking hugs, and that you cry tears of joy, and that you're grateful for everything that you have, and all the goodness that this life offers. I hope that you experience that not only in December, but for the rest of your life. All right, guys, I'm out in Chicago. Got to prep for a presentation. Love you guys. Can't wait to see you. And also we do have one more momentum call in January. Hold on, we got messages. Thank you. See you soon, Mandy. Awesome. Dan, great session. You're welcome, Dan. Kelly, thank you. You're welcome. Love to you. Hugs. Awesome, Mandy. We have one more session. I think it's January 4th. I don't know the exact date, so don't quote me on that, but we do have one more get ready session, and that's to really create a space that you can ask questions. You feel fully prepared coming in. Hopefully you do already. And also, we have something that we unleash every year called the Golden Ticket. Now, you should have received the email. I'm going to send out a text, and I also sent you a postcard, too, in the mail. It's a golden ticket, and what the golden ticket is, let me just show you. gcspeaker.com/gold. gcspeaker.com/gold. All right, so you have one golden ticket. Now that you're registered, you have one golden ticket to gift to somebody, and that golden ticket gets somebody in the doors for 90% off the full ticket price of $2,000. So they pay $197. They get all 3 days, and just send them to gcspeaker.com/gold, right? And what will happen is they're going to come across this page right here. And it'll kind of just walk them through a little bit of information like, hey, somebody loved you enough, they give you their golden ticket. But before you decide to come, view our agenda, and really we want to make sure that it's a good fit for them. And then they can purchase their ticket for $197. So gcspeaker.com/gold is the website, and you can share it and give it to you. You can give it to one person. One person can register through you, and that's good till January 11th. So what I want you to do is be thinking about people who you think this could be a good fit for. Maybe they're down and out. They need some love. They need some energy. They need some motivation. They need a swift, loving kick in the ass, whatever it might be. So just be thinking of those people, and then share the link with them and say, hey, I'm attending this event in January. I'm really looking forward to it. Here's the link. Check it out. If you think it's for you, let me know. I've got some discounted tickets or whatever comes from your heart. All right. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Finish off the year strong. Happy holidays to you. Happy New Year to you. And I'll be sending out some more communication between now and the beginning of the event. So we'll be in touch. All right, guys, you are awesome. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ticker.
Yeah, you guys are welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks, George. Take care.
You too, Victoria. Take care.
Bye. Thank you, George. Take care. See you soon.
See you, Claudia. Kiss that baby for me.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.